their back test, the model blew up. But there was there's something they saw. They said, you know what, this isn't going to happen again. But something else happened that was, a similar result. Wall Street trading desks were crowding them out. They were going into other things. Basically they were doing a strategy that's like picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. Eventually the steamroller is going to get you.
Right. And, but when you look at something, you're crazy not to be in on it. And you've looked at it from a backward looking due diligence standpoint. That leads us to 1999 tech stocks.
Yeah. So tech stocks from a backward looking due diligence standpoint, how could you not invest in tech stocks in 1999? They had gone up every single year, 40, 50% a year. Everything was great. From a forward-looking due diligence standpoint, one irrefutable thing in the market is reversion to the mean. If you look at any market over a long-term period of time, it's going to average out between 8 and 12% a year, which means if something is averaging like 30, 40, 50% a year, at some point, it's got to get its ass kicked. That just cannot keep going and going and going. So you didn't have to predict March of 2000 was the end to know, there was no way that was going to keep going the way it was going.
All right, so let's skip what happened with the real estate bubble. That's pretty obvious. John Paulson. And let's explain this one to everybody before you just say what was wrong.
Well, so John Paulson, going back to the mortgage bubble, so he was one of the guys and probably the most famous of the guys who kind of called the 2008 crisis and went into whatever they were doing, the bets against the CDOs. And he made his clients $1 billion. Up until that point, he was a mediocre hedge fund manager. After that point, he became famous. Everybody put money with him, and he never got, anywhere near that again. So basically, from a forward-looking due diligence standpoint, you're expecting, all right, yeah, this guy made one of the greatest trades of all time, but how many times do you do that in your life? And for him, so far, it's only been one.
All right, so let's do one other. It's not on the list here, but we've helped a lot of the folks that are on. There's a percentage of you on here that went through, what was it called, LJM or something like that. Great example so this one is not outside the norm. This was not outside in, like, you guys didn't invest in Madoff, but man, some of you are still taking it on the chin with your clients because of that company. And yet, from a backward-looking due diligence standpoint, how could you not own them? You remember enough about them, right, Matt? From a pure backward-looking from a pure backward-looking due diligence standpoint, sell me LJM.
So, and for those who don't know, so LJM was a mutual fund. Their average annual return had been somewhere between 7 and 9. They build themselves as kind of growth with preservation. And the returns were about 7 to 9%, very low standard deviation, not very correlated with the market, kind of making money every single month like clockwork, Morningstar 5-star rating, everything going well for them. Great track record. I don't know how long they were around. February of 2018, they blew up and either lost 80% of their assets or went to zero. I don't remember which. From a backward-looking due diligence standpoint, again, there's no reason you would not buy it. From a forward-looking due diligence standpoint, you then ask yourself, well, okay, how did they get their returns? Well, they got their returns by writing naked options on stock indices. And because volatility was going down, down, and down, they'd write these options, they'd collect the premium, and they'd expire worthless. And, they had this risk management system in place in case volatility spiked. Well, what's the one thing you know about writing naked options? is those options can, you can lose everything. They can go through the roof and, you lose everything. And, at some point we're due for a volatility spike. Well, then they say, well, we've got risk management measures, we got stops and things in place. What's the one thing you know about stops? Stops can get jumped in a crazy market. So you could have a stop, where, you owned a stock at 150 and you've got a stop at 100, but if the next trade is 25, you're screwed. Your stop at 100 did nothing for you. So
okay, try this one more time though. You're giving me both. You're giving me backward and forward looking. Because some people, they're still winding out of this. All right. So resell it, no forward looking due diligence. Why was it? If all you had was backward looking due diligence, how could you not buy it?
That's right. Okay. Morningstar 5-star rating, great track record, little correlation with the market, very consistent returns.
All right, so and it fit the niche and all that stuff. So what we're going to do, so that's backward looking due diligence. Let's take a breather here. Let's take a break because we're going to get into a lot of other heady stuff here. We'll go about 10 minutes till 25 after the hour. Let's take a 12-minute breather here. Actually, to be exact, it'd be 12 minutes. And then we'll pick up on forward-looking due diligence and how you can start integrating some elements of this to what you're already doing. All right, so please remember, if you are at an office and if you put us on hold, don't give us on hold music. Just get off the line, call back in on one of the two lines. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. Now 11 minutes. Yeah. Okay, 1 minute and counting, and we will resume into forward-looking due diligence. And we're going to go into reverse engineering with backtesting and some integral things in the adaptive optimizer concepts. The last section of this we're going to do first thing tomorrow, which is a gigantically important class, developing a tactical mindset, which is really nothing to do with investing. It's developing an agile mindset. Nothing will serve you better in life, both in business and personal, than that. So I'm going to save that for hump day tomorrow, first thing out of the gate. We're going to keep this meeting pretty technical here today. All right, Matt Tuttle, you back? We need to wait a minute or so because we're going to go into forward-looking due diligence. Assuming I'm back and a lot of you are.
Hey, I'm back, Ron. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Fix something here.
Say when, Matt.
Yeah, hold on. Just gotta check, make sure this
Okay.
works, and it works.
Well, he's doing
I'm good.
Okay. Oh, all right. So, and just a little announcement: by the end of tomorrow, the third day of this, we're going to start taking some pretty serious feedback from you before we go into the remaining 4 or 5 hours that'll be left in the next couple of days. All right. All right. So, out of the illusion of backward-looking due diligence that doesn't work came the necessity of forward-looking due diligence, which is at the top of the leadership scale on about everything we do in leadership in the network, not just in tracking other managers, but in systems and analyzing alliances and all kind of different things. But let's talk about it just from a purely money management standpoint. Okay. We're going to go on to the page that just lists 2 groups of 4 for forward-looking due diligence. Now, forward-looking due diligence is a really cool term we came up with that is really just reverse engineering. But we thought forward-looking due diligence had a lot more spice to it than saying reverse engineering. All right, so 4 key elements here. Now one thing, if I challenge you guys to get creative in taking the element of forward-looking due diligence into not just all aspects of business, but all aspects of life. I mean, you think about it, you train your kids on how to check out a potential relationship with this kind of stuff. And we'll get into that. But all right, so let's start with return attribution. What do we mean by that, Matt?
So return attribution is you want to know when you're looking at, and you're looking at either, it can be a money manager, it can be an asset class, it can be a strategy. Where did the returns come from? That is a key point. You cannot do forward-looking due diligence unless you understand where the returns come from.
And not just from the basic element, oh, the market went up. Okay. We're talking well beyond that. Because most of you don't even go that far into the basic stuff. What you do is you'll just look at what the returns are. And that's why I say if that's what you're doing, if you're researching a number to compare it against other numbers, what 14-year-old can't do that? you're not even into basic algebra at that point, you know. So so the first thing to look at is whenever you're looking at a return, whether it's good or bad, you have to look at it under the microscope of what and why. And so dig a little deeper into that, Matt, into return attribution.
Dig a little deeper in what respect? I mean,
give me an example. Give me some example. Well, look, it's not going to be all that apparent to everybody right off the bat. What do we mean about where did it come from? There's a lot of different variables.
All right. Okay. So example, in my Madoff example, they didn't know where the returns came from. So that was obviously a very extreme example. In a Good Harbor example, where did your returns come from? Your returns came because you're running a momentum methodology. The market pretty much was going up in a straight line. You were invested in it with leverage. So, that's how you generated your return. And when you were wrong, so you were in treasuries for a month while the market was going up, you were able, based on that methodology, to then get back into the market with leverage and then catch yourself right back up. So that's how that happened. If you're looking at how about from a negative
side here, Matt? Because we've picked things for the network sometimes that had horrible track records, yet why was it okay?
Well, in that instance, it would be okay because the market environment in the period we're looking at was not conducive to whatever strategy you were running, and therefore we wouldn't expect you to get good returns. An extreme example would be, let's say you took a bear fund and tried to look at it over the past 10 years. Well, the returns would suck. But, that doesn't mean you may not want to use it for some, way, shape, or form. You wouldn't expect it to do well. We do that with methodologies where, probably from a pure back